Hey everyone, I am finally in Thailand and I'm in a really unique situation that makes it pretty easy to focus on language learning because, like I said in my last video, I am currently in quarantine in a hotel in Bangkok. So my wife and I are trapped in this little hotel room. We're not even allowed to leave the front door to go into the hallway. We're just stuck in this room, which is an interesting experience, but it has given me a lot of time to focus on learning some languages. I've been in this hotel room for about a week now, and my main focus so far has been input. And if you don't know what input is, that just means I've been reading and listening to a lot of content in Thai and also in the other languages that I'm working on right now. You probably remember from some of my past videos that I've been going through the extensive reading stories in ThaiPod101.com. And I'm still doing that to get some active reading time for about 20 to 40 minutes a day. And that's going okay, but the problem with the ThaiPod 101 stories is that they're just boring. It wasn't a problem to begin with, but these stories, they're not even really stories. They're basically just like articles that are clearly designed for a first grader. It's stuff about like which planets go around the sun and what you should do when you're feeling sad. And at first that didn't bother me, but it's just getting to be a lot of boring content now. So I'm trying to expand and find other things that I can do. And that's why when I write my own books, I try to make them as interesting as possible. It's a lot easier to stay consistent with your reading when you're actually reading something interesting. I did have my first book translated into Thai, so I've been going through that a little bit. But my newest book, Zombie Girlfriend, I just haven't gotten around to having that translated into Thai yet. Hopefully I'll have a Thai translation within a month or so. If you're interested in either of those books, you can check them out at this link up here. One of my big discoveries while I was in quarantine that made me really happy was I found some of the mini stories from Link translated into Thai. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you might remember that I had been complaining about not a whole lot of good reading material in Thai the last time I lived in Thailand. Well, as it turns out, almost at the exact same time that I moved back to America and I thought I was going to be done learning Thai for good, Thomas from autolingual.com posted these mini stories in Thai, which I would have loved to have. But now I'm back in Thailand, so this is actually a really useful resource for me. And in addition to reading these mini stories from Link in Thai, I've also been practicing French by reading Le Joueur d'échecs and Spanish by reading El Hechicero. So that's all of the input that I've been doing during my active study time. I've also been doing a little bit of passive language learning, meaning I have some other times of the day where I'm trying to get some passive input, but not necessarily focus all of my time and attention on language learning at that moment. And the main thing I've been doing for that is watching TV shows on Netflix in Thai and in French. And my Thai is definitely not to the point yet where I can watch a TV series and just understand what's going on. So I do use English subtitles. And I know that's a little bit controversial. Some people think if you're using subtitles, then you're not learning anything at all. And I can just straight up tell you that this time that I spend watching Netflix with subtitles is definitely not as beneficial as the time that I spend actively studying Thai. But remember, I am just in this hotel room for 14 days, and so I'm trying to find things to do to kill the time, watching Netflix being one of them. And although this isn't the greatest method for learning Thai, I figure as long as I'm going to be watching Netflix anyways, I might as well watch a Thai series and get a little bit more exposure to the way that the Thai language sounds. And to tell you the truth, it is useful to some extent. I do spend most of my time reading the English subtitles, but fairly regularly while I'm watching these shows, I hear them use words that I am actively learning during my active study time. And all of this is just good repetitions using those words and hearing them in context. The show that I'm watching right now is called The Stranded, and it's about a group of Thai teenagers who just graduated from high school, and they're having a party on an island when a tsunami came and hit them. And it's an interesting TV show that actually is holding my attention. So all I can say is that this method is a lot better than a method that wouldn't hold my attention, because it keeps me always wanting to watch the next episode. And similarly, my wife is learning French, so she and I have been watching La Révolution in French. Watching Netflix is just something that we already do together, so I figured if we're both learning a language, then we might as well use that Netflix time to get a little bit more passive input. Aside from that, I've also been getting a little bit of background input by listening to Thai music, and I also listen to a YouTube channel called Thai Audiobooks for All Blinds. And that's a really funny name for a YouTube channel, but I think it sounds a little bit less weird in Thai than it does in English. And then the only things that I've been doing in quarantine that are not input related are Memorize, which I've been doing for just 10 or 15 minutes a day, just because learning new vocabulary is so important. And it's pretty nice because I'm learning fairly common words on Memorize that I also keep running into in context in my input study. And then other than that, I've been doing some more conversation practice on HelloTalk and italki. And this has been basically more of the old same stuff. I'm not quite at the point yet where I can have really detailed conversations, but every time I have a conversation with someone, I do get better and I learn how to express myself a little bit more. If you want to keep following my progress, be sure to click this button here so that you can keep following my playlist about how I'm learning the Thai language.